All right, the latest information we are getting into the Uttarakhand crisis is that the Uttarakhand High Court has set aside the president's rule. Remember, there was a rushed president's rule or central rule that was imposed in Uttarakhand after what the central government said was a breakdown of the constitutional machinery in the state of Uttarakhand. Harish Rawat was removed as the chief minister and president's rule was imposed in the state of Uttarakhand. The matter went to the High Court. The chief minister, or the former chief minister rather, dragging the decision of the central government to court, and the Uttarakhand High Court has now set aside president's rule. Brijesh Pandya, deputy editor who was monitoring all the proceedings at the Uttarakhand High Court, is joining us with more details. Brijesh, what next now?
Well, I think, the court will now deliberate about restoring the status quo, or they can order a test of the thing in the Uttarakhand assembly, where, both sides will get, at least Harish Rawat will get a chance to prove his majority on the floor of the House. So that is, and apart from that, the court will also decide, as to which way exactly the whole proceedings will begin. Already the chief minister has reached the governor house, and a lot of political activity have begun, both here in Nainital as well as in Dehradun. So it is all probability the court was also deliberating upon whether to impose a fine on the central government for this imposition or not. And the finer details will emerge in some time from now. But the big breaking news which has just come in is that the Uttarakhand High Court has set aside the president rule which was imposed on the 27th of March by the centre.
All right, let me go across to Ashar Ahmad Khan joining us with more details from Dehradun. Ashar, will the Congress party take this as a victory of sorts for itself, with the president's rule now being set aside by the Uttarakhand High Court?
Well, in the last couple of weeks, in fact, the Congress party, and especially the former Chief Minister Harish Rawat, was categorically stating that it is an attack on the federal structure, an attack on him by Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, and his central government, and also the BJP leadership. Now, with the High Court setting aside the rule in the state of Uttarakhand, it is a big shot in the arm for the Congress party and also for Mr. Harish Rawat personally.
Also, Brijesh, I want to come back to you now, since you have been hearing, or rather, been present at the High Court in Uttarakhand. Help us understand that. Does this pave the way, as you were mentioning, that one of the options open now is for a floor test, perhaps? That was supposed to happen before president's rule was imposed in the state. So how is the BJP at this point in time placed?
Well, that was the obvious reference, which also weighed very heavily on the minds of the judges of the.
सिद्ध हो गया, कोई आपातकालीन स्थिति नहीं थी, और सदन में पारित विधेयक को रद्द कर अपना विधेयक पेश करने को भी रद्द कर दिया गया। इससे बड़ी जनता की जीत, निर्वाचित प्रतिनिधियों की जीत, नियम कानूनों की जीत हुई। ये माफी मांगी जनता, इन्हें माफी दे दे तो ये बहुत समझे, और ये साफ हो गया 2017 में ये लोग वापस नहीं लौटेंगे।
आप ये बताइए मैम कि ये जो आज सब कुछ हुआ है, उत्तराखंड सरकार कांग्रेस के लिए या राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर कांग्रेस के लिए कितना बड़ा?
देखिए, राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर कांग्रेस के लिए बहुत बड़ी जीत है, और राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर मोदी सरकार की निरंकुशता, मोदी भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोगों की निरंकुशता, लोकतंत्र की हत्या के उदाहरण सामने आ गए हैं। सारे देश में आज से, देश नहीं बल्कि दुनिया भर में जहां जहां भारत के लोग रह रहे हैं वो इसे देख रहे हैं, और सबसे बड़ी विफलता भारतीय जनता पार्टी की उत्तराखंड की सरकार को बर्खास्त करने के रूप में कोर्ट के निर्णय के द्वारा सामने आई है।
अब जब हाईकोर्ट का महत्वपूर्ण फैसला आ गया है, कांग्रेस की क्या रणनीति है?
देखिए, अभी पूरा फैसला आएगा, उसका अध्ययन करके उसके अनुसार ही रणनीति होगी। सबसे बड़े दल होने के नाते हमें ही आमंत्रित भी किया जाएगा। स्टेटस को मेंटेन होने का मतलब हम पुनः अपने पदों पर कार्य करेंगे, और बड़ा दल होने के नाते ये तरह तरह की बातें करें। कोई अनैतिक तरीका इनका संभवतः अब नहीं चल पाए। ये बहुत सारे अनैतिक बयान दे रहे हैं जिसे हम सुन रहे हैं, लेकिन संविधान और कानून ये नहीं कहता है। हमारी संख्या 34 है, इनकी संख्या 27 है, तो हमेशा सदन में सरकार बहुमत के आधार पर बनती है।
जो गवर्नमेंट उस समय थी, हाईकोर्ट ने उसको भी रिवाइव कर दिया है।
अब आप देखिए, स्टेटस को दे दिया गया है। स्टेटस को माने हम आज से, अभी से कोर्ट के निर्णय के बाद सत्ता में पुनः वापस आ गए हैं। अब अधिक से अधिक हमें विश्वास मत हासिल करने का मौका दिया जा सकता है। हमारे पास मत है, ये उन्हें भी पता है।
तो किस तरह, ये तो बहुत बड़ा ऐतिहासिक,
ये देखिए, इतना आजाद भारत के इतिहास में ये पहली बार, जितना मेरा ज्ञान है न्यायालयों के बारे में, संसदीय परंपराओं के बारे में, ये पहला निर्णय है। और हम किस ढंग से न्याय की इस प्रक्रिया के प्रति अपना सर निभाएं, श्रद्धा अवनत हो कि किस प्रकार सर निभाएं। अगर जालिमों का जालिम तरीका नहीं चला, अंततः कानून के आगे सबको घुटने टेकने पड़े। और ये भविष्य में ये उदाहरण हो गया कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग अब किसी गैर भाजपाई सरकार की ओर उंगली नहीं उठाएंगे, आंखें नहीं दिखाएंगे।
Congress party, they're reacting with enthusiasm, saying that the next big step for them perhaps would be taking a floor test. And with this pronouncement by the High Court, Uttarakhand High Court, of setting aside President's rule, according to the Congress, it means that the Harish Rawat government is back in the saddle. Let me go across to Brijesh Pandey. Brijesh, is there clarity on what happens to the rebel MLAs if in case there is a floor test for Harish Rawat, which perhaps will be mandatory in this sort of a situation when we are seeing that there are a lot of rebels on the Congress party side itself? What happens to their status? Because that will be crucial in determining whether Harish Rawat stays or not.
Well, a lot of the orders are still to be heard about the exact status of what happens to the 9 rebels. But what we know for sure that this was the most important judgment which everybody was waiting down, because when it struck down the president rule, then then most of the decisions which have been taken by the speaker, it will also pave way for the judgment, because there have been a separate petition which has been filed by all these 9 rebel MLAs who have been challenging the speaker's decision to suspend them. So I think this particular decision will also play a crucial role in how a final decision is being taken vis-a-vis the fate of all those 9 rebel MLAs. But it is a huge victory for Harish Rawat government, and a major embarrassment as far as the central government is concerned. Because politically, if you look at it, Maha, I mean, the state is about to go to poll another 7-8 months, and a decision which was taken by a decision which was not supported by by the governor's letter, or there was no such constitutional breakdown machinery as was being alleged. So it has come as a huge embarrassment for the
heard on this issue.
Okay.
From what I gather, perhaps the centre might move the Supreme Court.
Right. Right. All right. Our managing editor is also joining us with more details. Vinay, I want to understand from you, does it appear that this judgment that we've seen today from the Uttarakhand High Court has taken its cue from the Bomai judgment in the past?
It may have, Maha, but I think there are 2 very landmark takeaways from this, and these are really very big landmark takeaways. One, the court has very clearly now stated on record that the order or decision of a president is not beyond judicial review.
Yes.
And remember, the Attorney General had been making this point that the president's decision cannot be put up for judicial review. The court has settled it in black and white that even if it's a decision by the President of India, it is going to be subject to judicial review, and they've done that in this case. And I think the other big takeaway is that they've kind of set the ground rules for center-state relations in many cases. One of the observations that the judge said in the hearings in the last 3-4 days was a specific question he asked the Attorney General, where he said that, will you now start using a microscopic lens to watch every single move done in a state assembly? What is your connection with that thing at all? You should leave it to the assembly and the speaker to decide. Why should you interfere in everything? The counter argument by the AG on issue being linked to corruption then prompted the judge to ask him that if that is the logic, then there is not a single state government in India which will survive. And that is what is being set the ground. They've also made a point which is very significant, that they've said that this is particularly true, and care needs to be taken when the ruling party at the center and the state are different. Because very obviously, if that happens, there will be accusations of politics being played, and in this case, it does appear that politics was played, and the government moved very quickly, even though they had no role to play in this entire thing which was being played out at the state assembly. So 2 very significant takeaways, one on the power of the President of India, and the other on the way the Article 356 or the decision to impose president's rule is being used.
All right, let me also go to consulting editor Rajdeep Sardesai. Now, Rajdeep, as both Vinay and Javed are pointing out, this judgment, of course, also questions what the president had done, because it was his assent that was required for presidents or central rule in Uttarakhand. And the court has also made an observation yesterday saying that the president can also go horribly wrong in decisions. Now, that's a very strong remark.
That's right. I think that is the biggest takeaway, as when I pointed out, that the president's order and president's rule is now going to be subject to judicial review. This has clearly expanded the concept of judicial review. The judges believing that if the president has committed an act which they believe is outside the purview of the constitution, then that can be challenged. and the order can be reversed. And that's exactly what's happened in Uttarakhand. Politically, obviously, this is a boost for the opposition ahead of the parliament session, which begins the second half of the budget session that begins on Monday. But critically, there is also talk of moves being made by the BJP to form a government by breaking the Congress even further and forming a government in Uttarakhand. Whether they will continue to go ahead with that route, given this judgment, is the big question mark. Remember, elections are due in Uttarakhand in February, and should the BJP now take the risk of trying to form a government through breaking the Congress further after this kind of judgment is the big question mark. So politically, clearly the centre on the back foot. Constitutionally, clearly the judges have asserted their supremacy in a sense by saying that even the president's order can be subject to judicial review.
Javed, I want to come back to you. You know, when this whole drama of the crisis in the Congress party in Uttarakhand was taking place, Ambika Soni had once remarked that the BJP is trying to fish in troubled water. So clearly there was trouble in the Congress party and the BJP was just perhaps utilizing that situation. So for the Congress party, are things settled by the setting aside of President's rule, or does trouble still remain?
Well, trouble still remains, but this was a huge hurdle. If, for argument's sake, Mr. Harish Rawat is allowed to prove his to go in for a floor test, and he manages to prove his majority on the floor of the House, then he holds all the cards. He holds all the cards. He can, in 2 months down the line or month down the line, or go in for fresh elections. Within 6 months of the due date, you can hold elections. So he can go in for fresh elections. The BJP will then have will have huge problems reconciling the vaulting ambitions of the likes of Mr. Bahugna, of the likes of Mr. Harish Rawat, of the likes of state BJP leaders. Who are they going to project? So it will all depend on who gets the first call to form the government and then prove his majority. If the Congress does, then Harish Rawat will be strengthened. He will get a shot in the arm, and he can then help marginalize a lot of those who would have otherwise tried to pull the rug from under his feet.
All right, let me quickly update our viewers on some of the latest information that we're getting at the moment. We understand that a floor test will be conducted on the 29th of April in the Uttarakhand Assembly. That's the latest that is coming in at the moment, but still no clarity on whether the rebel Congress MLAs will be allowed to vote or not, because that's one aspect that's going to be crucial. Let me go across to Rajdeep. All right, Randeep Surjewala is speaking at the moment, Congress spokesperson. Let's listen in. All right, Randeep Surjewala is on the phone line with us at the moment. Mr. Surjewala, this, of course, the Uttarakhand High Court setting aside President's rule comes as a huge shot for the Congress party, but troubles don't seem to be over, because if you're asked to prove your majority, as I understand, on the 29th of April, if the rebel MLAs also do vote, you are still in trouble.
See, firstly, let me say that this is a landmark verdict.
Okay.
The victory of people of Uttarakhand and victory of democracy and constitutional norms. It's also a slap on the face of those who wanted to subvert and subjugate constitution at the whims of dislodging elected government. Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi and BJP President Mr. Amit Shah would be well advised to apologize to people of Uttarakhand as also to people of the country for using muscle and money power to dislodge elected governments and disregard the mandate of people of this country. We will prove our majority on the floor of the House. That is what the Congress Chief Minister has been asking from day go. Mr. Narendra Modi, in his quest to dislodge and dismiss elected governments by misusing Article 356, decided to impose in Article 356 and dismiss our government in a misconceived fashion.
Mr. Surjewala, what would you say to the fact that with this judgment now the President's wisdom as far as giving an assent to central rule is concerned in states has also been questioned, and it has been open to judicial review now?
Right from S.R. Bomai's case, President's imposition of President's rule under Article 356 is on aid and advice of Council of Ministers. In this case, the aid and advice of Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi was based on political grounds, allurement of Congress party legislators, misuse of money and muscle power, and complete subjugation of constitutional mores. And that is why that presidential approval has been quashed by the court.
Are you all going to raise this matter in Parliament as well?
Absolutely, because this is not a standalone case. Mr. Narendra Modi and BJP first did it in Arunachal. They then did it in Uttarakhand. They are also trying to dislodge elected government of rival parties elsewhere in the country. Reason is that Bharatiya Janata Party cannot win the mandate of the people. They lost Delhi, they lost Bihar, they have lost most of the by-elections. So they are now using subversion of democracy as a tool to acquire power, which is impermissible in at least in our democratic setup.
You know, I want to come back to the first question I asked you, Mr. Surjewala. The floor test apparently is on the 29th of April. Are you all confident about being able to tide that through as well?
Absolutely. In fact, may I recapitulate? From day go, Congress party has been saying that the majority of the government can only be tested on floor of the House. We are ready to face a floor test. We will prove that we have the majority. People of Uttarakhand elected Congress party, and we will be successful in the floor test.
But sir, would you admit that if the 9 rebel MLAs also are allowed to vote, then your party might be in trouble?
Well, the 9 rebel MLAs, why did they rebel, is a moot question. And the answer is rather simple. Shri Narendra Modi and BJP president were using the allurement of money as also muscle power to wean away Congress party legislators in complete contravention of the anti-defection law. If Prime Minister of the country encourages elected governments to be dismissed by misusing the Constitution, then who will protect the Constitution? And I'm sure that better sense will prevail. I will like to reserve my comments for future. But we have full majority, and we will prove our majority on floor of the House.
Are you saying that you are in touch with some of the rebel MLAs to come back into the party's folds, or are you suggesting that you might have some people from the opposition voting for you?
Well, as per our strategy on the floor test, I'm sure we will be able to tell you in days to come. Today is not the day. Today is a day for victory of democracy, victory of the Constitution and people of Uttarakhand. Today is a day when courts of this country have squarely rejected the politics of allurement, politics of money and muscle power represented by the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Okay. All right, Mr. Randeep Surjewala, many thanks for speaking with India Today. That was Congress spokesperson speaking about what it believes is a victory and a huge victory for democracy. Of course, for the Congress party, it's a shot in the arm where the Harish Rawat government is back in the saddle for the moment with President's rule being set aside.
केंद्र सरकार की तानाशाही पराजित हुई है। बागी विधायकों के बारे में जो भी फैसला होगा वो माननीय न्यायालय में होगा। फिलहाल जो विधानसभा में विधायकों की लिस्ट है, जब तक कोई और फैसला नहीं आता है वो लिस्ट उसी तरह से लागू रहेगी।
उम्मीद है आपका जो अच्छा नवप्रभा जी, ये बताइए कि अब फिर से हरीश रावत मुख्यमंत्री हो गए कोर्ट के हिसाब से, तो 29 को फ्लोर टेस्ट है
जी।
आपको लगता है कांग्रेस
हम निश्चित रूप से फ्लोर टेस्ट में विजय प्राप्त करेंगे।
फ्लोर टेस्ट के अलावा सर अभी एप्रोप्रिएशन बिल का क्या अभी क्या स्थिति क्या है?
एप्रोप्रिएशन बिल पहले नहीं गिरा था, बीच में एक ऑर्डिनेंस लागू हो गया। ऑर्डिनेंस की अवधि 2 महीने है। 2 महीने राज्य में कोई भी वित्तीय संकट नहीं है, इसलिए कोई चिंता का विषय नहीं है।
विधायकों को देहरादून बुलाने की बात की जा रही है, कांग्रेस के विधायकों को क्या कहेंगे?
अब कुछ तो अपने माननीय मुख्यमंत्री के लिए भी छोड़ना पड़ेगा।
बीजेपी भी तैयार है सरकार बनाने के लिए, पूरा देहरादून में मसला लगा है।
देखिए, बीजेपी तो सरकार बनाने के लिए बहुत बेचैन थी। उन्हीं की आज जो उनके क्या कहते हैं मुंगेरी लाल के जो हसीन सपने हैं, उनको आज कोर्ट ने अपना आईना दिखा दिया।
All right, let me go across to Vinay Tiwari for the moment. Vinay, I'd like to understand from you that the situation still remains pretty complicated, if I'm understanding at the moment from what we are getting from Nainital, because there is still no clarity about the rebel MLAs.
That's right, and I think, but that's a decision that has to be taken within the state. It's not a decision or an issue which should involve the center, and I think that's the larger point from all of this. Maha, the other important point being, Javed mentioned about the central government probably thinking of going to the Supreme Court, but remember, in that case, the center would be mindful of the fact, something that you asked me earlier about the SR Bommai judgment case. The Bommai judgment by the Supreme Court did in fact mention judicial review for presidential declarations or orders of 356 as well. In fact, I remember very correctly now that we've read up a bit on that, Justice A.M. Ahmadi, who wrote that judgment, actually wrote that the imposition of Article 356 will always remain a matter of controversy, because there is never really a point where you can prove it in a black and white whether 356 is applicable or not. There was also one very important finery about horse trading, and remember there was a sting operation that was carried out which was used to support the argument that horse trading was likely to take place. Justice Ahmadi in his order actually mentioned that the idea of horse trading actually taking place and a government benefiting from it was different from likely to take place. And in this case in Uttarakhand, the centre moved preemptively on the grounds that it was likely to take place. It had not actually happened, and the government had not formed on the basis of horse trading. So he's made a very fine distinction in the order, and should the centre decide to go to the Supreme Court challenge this order, they will have to pass the muster of whether it falls in line with what the SR Bombay judgment said in 1994 or not. Maha.
All right, Vinay, very interesting point you're making there, because if I remember correctly, there was also a sting that was done just before the president's rule was imposed in Uttarakhand. And Javed, I want to bring you in at this point. Did the sting have any role to play in the entire state fiasco that we saw? Okay, Javed, I'll come back to you in a bit. We're getting news that after getting DNA samples, or rather giving the DNA samples of the 4 Pakistani terrorists killed in the Pathankot airbase attack, India is now contemplating disposing of the dead bodies lying.
There's the hair. But then I decided to use the public transport. And now I feel I look like Natha. But don't you worry, the show looks fantastic.